which is really tasked with, organizing and focusing on these first 4 steps so that we as an asset management team and as an investment team can focus on adding value at the properties and going out and executing. And so just to give you a brief overview of what's being done in collaboration with Bellwether, we focus every month on understanding how operating performance is performing at each of our assets. Many of you have probably seen our dashboard reports where we're taking a 429-page report and condensing it down into 100 pages that covers our entire portfolio. So there's a lot of condensing and validating going on there. And what that does is that takes actionable information and puts it in the hands of decision makers. And so John, I think, mentioned that we score every one of our assets on a monthly basis. We're also looking at occupancy trends, NOI trends, valuation trends, so we can scan down and look at a red light, green light, yellow light performance trends. So we know when we're reviewing a portfolio, we're reviewing the assets that we cover. We know where we're doing okay, and we know where we need to focus more attention. And so that's really been, our emphasis and push as we build out this analytics platform. And it's something that I think we're, very proud of, and we truly believe is best in class. So I'll turn it over to Brad to talk about how we use that information.
So perfect. So then the second bucket on here, the second most column for active asset management, we take that information, we digest it, and that scoring system actually is helpful in allocating our resources in an efficient and smart way. So for the deals that are way ahead of plan, well, we should take a look at those and see is now the right time to refinance it? Is now the right time to sell it because it's way performing ahead of pace? So so we take a special look at that. Then there are the deals that are plugging along, and those are deals where we've already established the operating plan. We did that out of the gate, and everything's going along. We shouldn't be spending too much of our time on those deals that are managing themselves. And so then there's the last group, which are the ones that have fallen behind plan, our red light deals. And that's where we really allocate the resources. And that's, getting out to the properties more. That's getting senior folks involved. That's bringing, elevating the deal team and working collaboratively with the investment team on those as well. So, what are some of the things that we do for active asset management? Well, I think the second bullet on here where we're collaborating with the team regarding strategic direction, that's important out of the gate. And so we actually do that before we even close on a deal, where the asset management team is consulted to bring institutional knowledge from other deals that we've done, maybe in that submarket, maybe with that property type, maybe with those tenants, maybe there's something. So we always want to make sure we're sanity checking the business plan out of the gate and setting strategic direction. So even before we close, if we're going to be doing, for an opportunistic deal, if we're doing a renovation, we've got a contractor identified out of the gate and a plan, so we're hitting the ground running and we're not wasting time. Or for, a more core plus type deal that we're getting to know the tenants and establishing, what are the key points to being able to renew or to lease up any additional pieces there. So then the next bullet on here is managing the leasing efforts. And that's something that I spend a lot of time on, which is, managing broker relationships across all the submarkets, working with tenant brokers, working with our landlord rep brokers, and then working to get to know the tenants themselves so that we're ahead of the game in figuring out how to lease up our space, how to lease up our vacancy, and how to renew tenants. And in a more core plus strategy, it's really important to retain tenants. And so, I spend a lot of my time doing everything from managing broker relationships and understanding the markets and what our competition is, to also reviewing the lease terms, putting proposals out there, reviewing the leases themselves and all the legal documents. And then once those tenants are in there, making sure tenant relations are performing well. The next point on here is tracking the execution of business plan and market fundamentals, and that just goes to our institutional knowledge. And we have a great team, as the acquisitions team spoke to. We're second to none in Atlanta and a bunch of other markets where Todd knows, frankly, everybody on the ground there. And our asset management team tries to do the same, and that's having relationships with all the brokers so we know which tenants are in the market or could be. And so. That's that piece on the business plan and the market fundamentals. And then, I hit on a little bit our assisting with acquisition efforts out of the gate, but then also the asset management team works hand in hand with the acquisitions team on dispositions, on other capital markets efforts, on refinancings. Really, while we talk about the asset management team, there are 50 plus asset managers in the deal team, the execution investment teams themselves. And we work hand in hand to make sure that we're maximizing proceeds of any refis, any dispositions. And then, lastly on here, we have focusing on the bottom line. And so as you look at an asset, if we're buying a building, there are different ways to increase value. One of which is through the leasing side, which is going to hit your revenue. The other side of that is, all right, well, if we can't do anything with the revenue, maybe we're full, what can we do on the expense side? And we take a really hard look at that, figuring out, all right, are there ways where we can work on energy management plans to figure out ways to save on utilities? Are there capital that we can do that cuts down on recurring R&M? Are there staffing changes we can make at the asset? And so we really look at every item, and that's in the original acquisition process, then on an ongoing basis with every annual budget, and then even on a regular basis figuring out where we think there are potential savings. And so we've done that across the opportunistic portfolio, as well as now we're bringing it to play on more core plus deals.
And I'll just say that I encourage the senior asset managers to participate in an investment committee, because they on a day-to-day basis are dealing with the problems, and there's so many things that we learn. We don't want to keep relearning things over and over again. So getting their input as we buy